Welcome to Season 3 of Time and Materials, a construction-only podcast that's powered by livecost.com, where we sit down with interesting people doing interesting things in construction. These construction experts kindly give us their time so that you can walk away with greater insights to make better day-to-day decisions in your construction career. Hello, you're very welcome to another episode of the Time Materials podcast. So this week we are joined by Conor Walsh, who is the Managing Director of Encon. Encon will be a market leader in the Southeast for the retrofit space, so retrofit contracting. But Conor's very much positioned himself as a thought leader in that position and has won awards for his innovative approach to that space. So we dive into his experience, coming up through the trades as a carpenter, the failures of some of those businesses, what he done well, what didn't do so well. So there's a fair amount of learnings there in terms of going from trade to business owner. We also debut our Time and Materials Key 3, which is, given where we're in Season 3 now, we have 3 key questions that we're asking all guests, and that is for their best piece of business advice, their thoughts on how they would make a positive impact and change construction if they didn't have any resources. So you can get Conor's good thoughts on that. And just for a bit of fun, a bit of crack, we also are diving into some of those apprentice stories. So hang around until the end. Conor has a couple of good ones there as well. So sit back, enjoy, and take some takeaways from my chat with Managing Director of Encon, Conor Walsh. Right, we're away. Conor, you're very welcome to the Time Materials podcast. Listen, thanks for giving us your time, first and foremost. You're very welcome.
Thanks, Liam. Happy to be here.
I like to start these things off with just giving people a bit of context to who we're speaking to. So, bring us right back. Bring us back to the very, very start. Let's kick off there. Tell us, how did your career begin in construction?
I always wanted to be a carpenter. Hated school, so I actually left school after my junior cert and became a carpenter in my uncle's joinery and kitchen manufacturing business. He was a tough man to work for. Parents said we'll send him out to work with Uncle Charlie and he'd probably run back to school. Lo and behold, that's what happened. I went to work for a year and went back to school then. I kind of got to the one of the directors of the company was an ex-principal, and we had a chat, and he said, look, you're still very young, go back to school, get your leaving cert, if you want to be a carpenter then come, you go back at it. So I went back to school, done my 5th and 6th year, just, I suppose, thinking more of the future. If I did ever want to progress my career in different areas, then concerned that a leaving cert would be a minimum. So we're back, done 5th and 6th year. Came out then and went straight into carpentry then, back into 2nd year. So my 2nd year, when I went straight into 4th, and then I finished 4th and done my 2nd year then, after the 4th, after the block release in 4th, so with 20 weeks at the time. I qualified as a carpenter then in, I suppose, 2008. The industry was nowhere, it was gone. So I remember actually asking my boss at the time to, pay me my holiday pay. I was going out on my own. And I went off and I borrowed a couple of €1,000 from the credit union to become a BER assessor, against the advice of my father. But my father has a history of advising quite successful business people here in Waterford not to go into self-employment. One of the top 50 contractors here in Ireland is based in Waterford, and my father said the same with him, and he was advising not to go into business. So I would be inclined to listen to him.
That's an interesting starting point there. So we're actually started on similar paths. Actually, I would have qualified as a carpenter in 2006. Now, my path was my decision there was there was nothing, and interesting comment there you just made, there was nothing going on, right? I remember at the time my decision was out of here, right? I decided not hanging around here. I'm going to Australia. Was there any thoughts there for you? You decided to sort of fight it out, and even fight it out an even harder road, I suppose. Let's go out on my own and tackle that. You think back to what was your thinking at that time?
Well, I wasn't long out of school, and my now wife, then partner, became pregnant with my boy. He's 17 now, Zach. Unfortunately, he was born with cerebral palsy. It was quite severe. So I suppose, traveling was never really on the cards for us, which, look, at the time, I suppose I was too young to really be thinking about travel. And then when I got to the stage where I could have thought about it, it wasn't on the card, it wasn't on the table. So I just kind of said, right, we're going to be here now, we're going to be living here, and we're going to be starting a family young. We need to earn, and that set me on the road. The BER thing, the BER certificate process was being announced. It was becoming a law in 2009, and I didn't take too much time. I don't dwell on things too much. I just looked at this and said, this is the future. And I didn't think it would take so long. It took a lot longer than what it did, because while it was a law in 2009 for all properties advertised for sale or let, it took a good number of years before it actually became, enforced. So we got the money from the credit union. I got the money from the credit union and went off and done the BER training course. I done all right out of that for the first year or two, we were doing the BERs, for some of the local estate agents, and getting a few jobs out of it. And then that progressed then into the retrofit space. And we started doing the low level stuff, the attic insulation and the internal dry lining, and got registered with the external wall insulation. It was a new concept at the time, so it was a tough sell. But then it started to roll, and people started to get more and more understanding of it. We're nothing like what the business that we have now, but it was. I was going to say,
I was going to say, like, you started young then, right? So we met on the Ireland's Best Young Entrepreneur and the finalists there, and that would have been 2019. So that we're talking like you were 10 years into business at that stage, and still qualifying for the young entrepreneurs. So you must have been one of the most experienced there in that particular competition. So how many businesses there had gone through? I mean, I'm sure it's similar to myself. There was some good ones, some bad ones. Were they all construction based? Have you ventured outside of construction in that time?
No. So we had the BER. So I'm very strong on, right? If I'm going to enter a space, then I'm going to stick at it. I try not to, some people will pivot different directions, and okay, right, we always increased our service offering, more so, and stayed in the same space. I really believe that the whole energy efficient space was going to become a revolution. Then to my father in 2009, this is going to be the green revolution. It's going to really become a place in the industry, and I'm going to stay on this journey. And it's been a hard journey, there's no doubt about it. So it was the BER company, and then that progressed. So it was Walsh Energy Rating Consultants. Then we changed it to Waterford Efficient Living, and the acronym was WELL. So well by down here is quite big. So our slogan was another well insulated house, and that got a bit of traction and a bit of talk, but it was just progressive from the BER into the retrofitting space. And in 2009, 2012, it was generally the one company. And then in 2012, the market, I suppose, lost confidence. The recession there was no sign of the recession lifting. And what I was calling was the silver dollars, where we were making money out of the retired civil servants, people who had, good income over the years, guards, nurses, teachers, and they saw that spending money in the retrofit space was going to pay back for them over a period. And there was a payback period probably anywhere between 5 to 8 years at the time, because the measures weren't as deep as they are now. But in 2012, like I said, the consumers lost all confidence in the market. There was no sign of this recession lifting, and people started to double down on their savings, and they weren't spending like they were. So we went to the UK. I created a hit list of 10 of the biggest companies in the UK. The Green Deal was kicking off over there, and I literally went over to events and went to their offices and knocked on the door. And I went down through the list, got to the bottom of the list. I hadn't got a contract. And I went back to the start of the list and I started again. They were big entities.
On that Ireland's Best Young Entrepreneur, though, there wasn't much construction there, that's fair to say. There was a lot of tech, and there was some science play, and it was a bit of a tech play as well, right? So what do you think? I mean, and it was a good PR piece, and you're doing well from a construction. I was quite impressed to see it just a core construction company. We sort of were able to jazz our way there to the final because we had a bit of fancy technology, really. But I was quite impressive to see a raw construction company get themselves onto that platform. Like, what was it that was different about Encon, do you think, that people since pushed you towards the finals of that competition?
So we've spent the last nearly 15 years making old buildings energy efficient. And that's, we have a good place in the market now across the southeast. We could be all over Ireland. If we took investment, we could go all over Ireland with it. We really could. But, I'm happy with the southeast and owning the lion's share of it here. I'm a business partner with me as well. But my main thing, I suppose, was the proven track record, because I was in the established business category. So the proven track record of, starting from literally myself and Ivana, my partner there, we worked together up to having, national contracts, I suppose government contracts across the southeast. But we were across a different field. So we were in commercial, we were in residential. But I went back to college in 2015. And I got a degree in quantity surveying. I finished that course in 2018. And while I was there, there was one of the modules was, create a business from nothing and present it to the group as a product that we can market and sell. So I was looking at the time, we were doing a lot of external insulation. We are now still. But we've been working on new buildings, and they were building steel frame buildings with block infill and then wrapping it with external insulation. And the more and more energy efficiency advanced, the more and more the architects and engineers became fond of the external insulation concept. Because not only did you have a good solid U value, but you were able to treat the Y value, so the thermal bridging junctions, a lot better than you are with traditional cavity wall methods. So external insulation has started to become a major place in the new build space. And I was like, okay, so we're using a retrofit product for a new build concept. Surely there's a better way to do this. So I looked at the concrete companies who were making precast panels, and they were building, one particular company, O'Reilly Concrete, were building an Aldi store nearby. And the whole building came in massive panels, 4 meter tall panels by 2.5 wide. And they were concrete panels, so concrete inner leaf, concrete outer leaf, and then they were tied together with a steel and an insulation sandwiched in between. At the time, that panel was about €160 a square meter, which is twice the price of what you could build a domestic wall for. So I started looking at that, and a friend of mine owns a fixing store, and I was in the back room, and I was tinkering with fixings, and I was getting this and getting that. And seeing how could we make one layer of insulation stay on one layer of concrete, because up till now they were using the sandwich concept to hold it together. So I looked at the market, and there was literally nothing that allowed us to do external insulation on a precast panel, only retrofitted after the fact. So I went to the college and asked them would they support this. I got a small grant of Enterprise Ireland for the innovation voucher, and I worked with the BIM lab, and I created basically a fixing that I've got a European patent now on a fixing that allows us install external insulation to a precast panel in reverse in the factory. And it's based on cable tie technology, but it works the same way as a mushroom fixing or thermal break anchor works. So that was, at the time, was part of Encon. And that was I suppose the innovative piece that you talk about there that was able to I suppose give the Enterprise Ireland the iBuy, I suppose, probably the box ticking exercise.
You've done well on that front. Like that we mentioned Ireland's Best Young Entrepreneur, but on the PR front, I've seen like the Irish Times would have picked you up for a couple of things. You've been speaking at the National Construction Summit. Like, do you think construction business owners miss an opportunity by not exploring PR as a way of growing brand?
Definitely. Like I got an amazing PR piece done last year on the retrofit space, and it was purely just I done a nice job for a client who was I suppose she's a major position in the Green Party. So there was a piece written on Grace, and then they obviously got picked up from that. Then that I was the contractor, and we got an interview on it, and it works. It really does. It's really it's not even free advertising. It's good good coverage, because customers are reading about, from a company point of view, and they're not being sold something. They're hearing the experience piece, or the experienced person talk about their space within the industry. And like yesterday, Joanne Hunt from the Irish Times, again, I was interviewed a few weeks ago on the energy efficiency space, and there was a piece in the Irish Times yesterday. Again, I was quoted in it quite regularly as well, and the phone is hopping since yesterday because of it. And that was no charge whatsoever. It was just I know the writer there, and she contacted me and she asked me a few questions based on an article that she was writing. And it works well. It really does work well.
Absolutely does. Yeah, no, it definitely feels like when people are trying, especially when we start to hear about slowdowns and stuff like that, potential slowdowns. There's no evidence of that just yet, but potential slowdowns and ways to stand out, I suppose, in a crowded market. Once things slow down, it gets crowded fairly quickly. And it's definitely, it seems like a way of, that whole thought leadership piece, and you've done well there. So credit to you. I mean, like you mentioned there, as journalists are coming to you asking for opinions and quotes and stuff like that. What is your take generally on the whole retrofit space? Like, where are we at?
We're way behind the startups. There's a couple of different divisions in SEAI. Like the Warmer Home scheme is a very successful scheme. It's been in operation now nearly probably as long as SEAI is formed. And just, I suppose, the processes and the team delivering the scheme are exceptional. We were recently awarded again to the framework for another number of years. And it's basically, I suppose, targeted at mainly people who are in receipt of fuel allowance. So elderly people normally who might own their own home but would fall into the fuel poverty bracket. People, maybe somebody with a special needs member in the family, or someone, maybe on family income support, or widow or something like that, who unfortunately lost their better half or their other half, but they can qualify for this scheme and they can get free energy upgrades. That's going well. It's hard to get on it. You have to be a successful and proven track record to get on it, but the numbers are quite big what they're delivering. There's thousands of homes being delivered on that every year, and they're trying to ramp it up. The private space is busy. It is busy, but there's a big barrier to it, and that's finance. There's a talk about it at the minute. It's like they're talking about getting low cost finance for the retrofit space since 2009. I believe it's coming in this year, the final quarter of this year. It was meant to come at the start of this year, but like I said, it's been talked about since 2009. I think the problem here is the banks, they're at whatever, nearly, 3.5% interest rate at the minute.
Is that a key there? Do you see that as a key for the private residential space? Whereas if we do have low cost finance, more people are going to jump on that, and therefore it's going to take off.
Without a doubt. We got partnered up with one of the local credit unions. Then there's a league of credit unions that have done another, more of a national scheme, but it's same to the scheme that we've done. So people come to us and they go and they get the quote, and it's not crazy, but it's about 5.96% interest rate, and really people just haven't availed of it. They just said the money is too expensive. If you're talking 50, 60 grand. Now, they recently launched the one-stop shop scheme with SEAI. That was in the making for a good few years. It was a pilot scheme, and it took a while. So that's rolling now. The grant is really good. But say your average house, your 3 or your 4 by 70 built in maybe the late 80s up to the 90s. They could get to the A-rated stands maybe for about 35,000, say, right? New triple glazed windows, insulation, solar panels, air to water unit. But 35,000 is a lot of money. And they might consider it if there's a better rate of finance. Now, there's talking about $500 million in the pot here for this low cost finance, but now supposedly they're at loggerheads because, if inflation increases interest rates even further, then you're going to be up on 5%, maybe at 4 or 4.5%. And we already know that it's too high. It needs to be around the 2.5 mark. So that's a major barrier.
Feels that way. I mean, it definitely feels that way. I mean, we from a personal point of view, I've looked at it myself and said, okay, well, what options are out there? But like you say, when it comes down to it, there's no real incentive there. Like, there's no real push there, you'd say this is actually well worth the while doing. We should push on with this. It just looks like a massive expense on the homeowner with no clear, well, as far as from my point of view, no clear return on that. Without looking at some incentive.
So the initial concepts, and it's still not out there. It's not in black and white yet. But before they were saying, right, okay, if your energy bill is say for argument's sake 5,000 a year, right? If we loan you this money, right, based on they take charge over equity in the house, right, until that loan is paid. Your energy bill should go down to say 1,500 a month, right, and then that 10,000 is used. Then you still pay your full energy bill, and that 3,500 then is paid against the loan annually, and then your payback period might be anywhere between 10 and 15 years, depending on the level of retrofit needs to be done. But and then you say to yourself, right, okay, the kids are 5 years of age, they'll be going to university. We're going to have bills. We're going to be in this house for at least another 20 years. We're going to add value to it. We're going to save on energy bills. We're going to have a more comfortable home as well, because that's the big thing that they're trying to drill into people and make people understand. And a lot of people have said to me, I didn't realize the difference of living in an A-rated home versus a C or a D. And there is a massive value around the comfort aspect of it, not spending money on energy and still feeling cold, not having dampness or mold in your house, and just generally all around comfort in the home, and the, I suppose the more positive feeling that your home is not underperforming for you, that's a piece that people need to understand as well. But again, look, it's brass tacks at the end of the day. And if it's not affordable for people, then they're not going to do it,
Absolutely. We're on season 3 here, and we have this thing called the Time Materials Key Tree. I'm going to fire a couple of questions at you here, right? So, first one is, what's the best piece of business advice you've ever received?
So I was thinking about that long and hard, and I suppose can I spin it a little bit, because I'm a little bit of a lone ranger in the sense that I know a few people in business, but there's nothing really sticks out for me. I used to have a mentor in the early days, and she was very good, Mary Clancy. A lot of time for, and she used to always just tell me to just keep it lean, don't overextend yourself. And I understood what she meant when in 2012, when the market I suppose dipped, and we were under pressure, and we went down for a few quid at the time. Wasn't much, but it was a loan that we had or whatever. But I suppose if I could give advice, the advice would be, for a young man or a young lady thinking of going out on their own. One is hard, so be ready for the pressure. But the mistake I made was I didn't stay under the wing of someone for long enough. You know what I mean? As you hit on the nail on the head, I went out on my own at 19. I'm not 19, I was 20, 22, I suppose, by the time I was qualified. And I had to make all the mistakes myself. So I spent years making mistakes, and that was a mistake. That was a big mistake in the sense that I looking back, I think I should have stayed under the wing of somebody. I didn't have much of a choice at the time, but pick a mentor and stay and learn with him. And I suppose that's going to be difficult, because fellas might be a bit more cautious of the young entrepreneur. I'm not going to teach them everything, but
I think it happens, right? I think anyone that gets working for a company, and I know this is my experience anyway, and you get into a position where you're maybe half running the job, and you just think to yourself, shit, this is handy. This fella's, why am I running these jobs for that fella when I could just run the jobs myself, and I'm probably going to earn double the money? And you realize that there's a running of a project and there's a running of a business, and they're very, very different things. And so, I mean, I take it, and sometimes we you become accidental business owner, whereby just an opportunity pops up and you're there and you take it, and the next thing you're employing people. But the choice to go out, I agree with you. Maybe becoming a number 2 or number 3 for a couple of years is probably a good approach, where you get to see the business side of it, not just the project ins and outs, because that's only half the battle, isn't it? Like the business side of it becomes
a fraction of the business,
Yeah.
I'm sure I have lads out there working for me on site, and they're saying to me, actually, he does not know all day, but I'm like, that's because 30 of you here on the ground flat out, I said, for the next number of years. Who do you think does that? Like, it doesn't bother me, you know what I mean? I just laugh it
Yeah.
off, and I just say, look, you get paid from the shoulders down now, continue now. Don't be worried about what's going on above my shoulders.
On the second one is more about just your thoughts on the industry. So the one we like to get an understanding. If you had no resource constraints at all, what would you change? What's one thing that bothers you, or one thing that you'd like to change in construction as a whole?
Well, I suppose as a whole, well, I suppose definitely we're starting to go in the direction that, parents are not so keen to push their kids into an apprenticeship route. And I suppose, where trades are almost, elements of trades, not all trades, I suppose, but elements of the trade sector are becoming a dying trade for Irish youth, because they're just, people, everyone, oh, you need to go to college, you need to go to college. And yes, college is for some, and it is good, I suppose, you extend, your learning years, and, there's great time to be had in college. But look, college is not for everyone, and, young lads shouldn't be scared away from going into apprenticeships, in a number of years, there's going to be trades that if we don't have migration of labour into these trades, they're going to be gone completely. So I think the schools could certainly do a little bit more around gearing lads up for apprenticeships and giving them a little bit more experience and ideas.
Couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more. I think there's a negative, isn't there? A negative put towards the trade, and one thing I realised from doing the travelling is that it is the ticket to ride. You've got your trade papers in your bag. You can go anywhere, pick up work, earn good money. And I remember working away, and people had degrees and spent years and years in college. They were starting off really in the bottom of low-paying jobs, and you arrive in with these papers that you don't think much of when you're here, and then you realise and you go, "Wait, hang on, this is valuable. I've got a valuable piece of material here with me," and couldn't agree more. And I do agree with you as well. The skills career guidance needs to give a little bit more into. There is a lot of value in becoming and getting into construction, especially in that space you're in. Like, there's going to be a full energy, like that whole retrofit solar space. We haven't even scratched the surface there yet.
No, it's massive. It really is. And you can see in I suppose there's certain elements of, I suppose, the tech space, and not to show shade on your space, but there's concerns around developer jobs now and things like that. Whereas before, was artificial intelligence going to, affect, the employment opportunities where, for certain, I don't know. I don't understand the tech space. I'm not in it. Is it going to affect job opportunities? You're seeing people being let go in the industry. Whereas, the schools, I think they could do more around. I think there could be a program in the school. Or you would say, right, okay, where are you thinking of going? I'd like to do this trade, I'd like to do that trade. And maybe, one day a month or 2 days a month, they go out to the local university. Because there's labs out there, construction labs, and they can go out and they can try their hand in a bit of air tightness, and they can try their hand in a bit of skimming, and just get a feel for it, a bit of touchy-feely. Because young lads come to me and they say, oh, I want to be a plasterer, I want to be a carpenter. One lad was saying to me recently, I want to be a block layer. And I just say, look, lads, come on in, come on, I'll give you 3 months, I'll register you within a few weeks if that's what you want to do. But if you don't, and you want to try 3 months, you can jump around and you go between the different crews and different team members and get a feel for what you like, and it usually works with lads,
And one of the things that gets forgotten about is that, it's not forever, right? So you're a carpenter. You qualified in 2008. I'm a carpenter. I qualified in 2006, and two of us are sitting here today, and we ain't hanging doors and we ain't putting skirting on the wall, right? No. So like it is a good foundation for what you want to go on and do next. Like, we're both still involved in construction, doing very different things, but I mean, it's that grounding, I suppose, and you can't beat that on-site experience, knowing what goes on a day-to-day. Someone coming in and trying to open up, like, let's say for example, like someone wants to come in and compete with you in that retro space, see a business opportunity. Very difficult when, you know the ins and outs of what has to happen on that project on a day-to-day basis, so you can't beat that sort of grounding as well.
You can't.
Just talking about your crew there as well. And the third one we like to ask is, by the way, I just a little caveat: live cost and time and materials do not condone any wrongful doing of any apprentices, right? And we all agree with that. But listen, we've all worked on site. Everybody's worked on site and has an apprentice story. Do you have one that from your time, or someone that's been working with you?
I have a couple. No, from my time. And I suppose there's one that kind of went straight away. They might go, Jesus, he's not a very honourable youngster if they hear this one. I tell the first one anyway. So I remember I was only young then. I was only 16, and within a couple of months I was assembling kitchens, like 3 kitchens a day. And then, we used to get the kitchens done so fast that we'd be sent out on deliveries. My uncle was a hard man to work for, He's difficult enough at times. But he was obsessed with sending everything out assembled. So we used to have massive wardrobes, a metre wide, 2 odd meters long, going out to these houses, and they'd be going out and they'd be digging trenches. And it was like an absolute obstacle course to get these wardrobes into the house. Like, you pull up in the truck and you might have to park freaking 200 or 300 meters down the road. And here me and one of the drivers would be going down with these wardrobs, carrying them down. So it's only a young fella, I'm only a small fella. I was even smaller back then, you know what I mean? I would carry these wardrobes and up and down planks and across trenches and down in holes and up in holes. But the brightest idea he had there was one of the days Mac and Arnie were building a massive scheme on the Dumber Road, Waterford City, and we went out to the house, and it's a 3-story house. And so lo and behold, he didn't want the fitters putting the wardrobes together, And we went out, and it was 1,000 wardrobe, a metre wide wardrobe. And we were trying to get up the stairs, and we couldn't get it on the turn on the stairs, So we ended up having the whole team out there anyway. He was there, my other uncle was there. There must have been about 7 of us there. He was tying ropes around the wardrobe. I tried to pull it up from the ground floor up through the first floor window. Sorry, you're not going to do this with every wardrobe. And you just accept the fact that they need to be sent to the site flat pack, That was a very memorable moment. He lifted up and there was a fellow underneath with a plank of timber trying to push it up, and another fellow pulling it with a rope. Another story, I suppose, it's quite a bad one, all right, but not a bad one, but I suppose it was a bad, I suppose it might be a bad image of myself, but I was working for the company and things were going forward at the time. You can imagine it was towards the end of the boom. So they got this idea to print out a lot of calendars, was displaying their work. So they asked me to go out for delivery on the calendars anyway. And they sent me around to give me a list of all the architects and engineers around Waterford. I was like, fuck's sake, I'm an apprentice here now. So what am I doing going around delivering calendars, So I was set up in one of the local estate agents' office in the Key in Waterford City, where he was friends with one of the business owners. And I went off with my little bag and I was delivering all the calendars, and I went to all the architects' offices around and I was giving them out, and it came back on me. And then it was the next day he sent me in again to do more, and I was absolutely just fuming at this. Why was I going delivering calendars? So I started walking around the city, and instead of sending them into offices, I was putting them in the bins. It was terrible. Shouldn't I? What I just told him. I came out again, so I got floppy anyway, and I got to the end, getting to the end of it. I was sick of it, so I came out of the auctioneer office, and there was a bin, literally just 2 bins down, So basically, I didn't care at this stage. I had enough of it, I went down and I was shoving the calendars in the bin. But so one of the business partners, colleague from another company, was watching me down the road in the car, The chap rang me anyway, and he said to me, Conor, where are you? And I told him where I was, and he was like, the guards after calling me, he said, you're disposing of the calendars. And I said, well, where are you, Michael? I said, there's a fellow down the road in the car watching me. I said, I know who he is. I said, I got sick of it. I said, if I wanted the job at On Post, I said, I would have went on Post. I said, you ever just come back out to the factory? He said, you're freaking Aegis. They brought me back. But Michael was actually very supportive of me. He was the one who got me back into school. He said, look, Conor, an intelligent lad, you know what I mean? Go back to school, get your leaving cert, and if you want to come back to carpentry, do. He's very smart. And I've actually done some work for Michael since. But yeah, that was the story that came to mind straight away.
Great stuff. Great. So I mean, you've built up Encon. You're very much, as you mentioned, position yourself as a bit of a thought leader in that space. What is the overall vision for Encon? Like where do you see the company in 5 or 10 years' time?
So I suppose when I look, we are one of the leaders in the southeast. There's no doubt about that. Retrofit, you know, the whole of Ireland doesn't really entertain me, really. You know, I'm not too excited about trying to roll it out nationwide. I could, you know. Is it something that we consider, like, you know, creating some franchises across, you know, in each of the provinces and getting that set up based on the model that we've developed and how we operate, you know, with the benefit of live costs and other softwares within the company like that. You know, but I suppose, a strong player within the market in domestic and commercial, you know, retrofitting and new technologies. The fixing that I talked about developing, which is for precast housing, that's under the name Advisor MMC. That I hope by 2025 that we will become, I suppose, a key player in the supply chain of housing. Whether it be the fixings into concrete companies in Ireland and the UK, and they can make these precast monolithic insulated panels and deliver them to their regions. That's the vision, I suppose, really, you know.
Brilliant. Excellent.
Not much to try and get.
No, just a couple of companies. Listen, we wish you all the best with that. If anyone wants to reach out to you, anyone wants to reach out to you personally, or just figure out more about Encon, what's the best place to find you?
You can probably hit me up on LinkedIn, or you can send an email to Conor at encon.ie. I'm quite responsive, so if somebody's listening and they want to get in touch, feel free to do so.
We'll link that up as well in the show notes. For now, Conor, thanks very much. Great to have you on. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, delighted. Cheers. Bye now.
Time and Materials is brought to you by LiveCost, the construction software fully designed to manage your construction financial forecasts. Visit livecost.com to take a product tour or reach out to our team of construction cost experts to transform your project profits. Any links mentioned during this episode, including speaker profiles or any other resources, are available on the podcast show notes. Your feedback is also welcome. We would really appreciate if you could take a moment to leave us a review or email your comments, guest suggestions to hello@timeandmaterials.com. Finally, if you haven't done so already, please don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for listening. Until next time, I'm your host, Kieran Brennan.